It doesn't matter if you've just completed Little Nightmares or have finished your 400th run. The feeling remains the same. You want more Little Nightmares. But until we get the release of Little Nightmares 3, I have a temporary solution for this, and that is games like Little Nightmares. Hello everyone, my name is It's Just Jord, and in this video I'm going to be showing you some of the games that I have experienced and I think that scratches that Little Nightmares itch. Oh, and if you are of course a fan of Little Nightmares or something like Reanimal, make sure to hit subscribe, as I like to cover those games and also talk about the stories and everything in between. So if that does interest you, I would encourage you to subscribe. It really helps me in the channel, go a long way. Anyway, shameless self-promotion out of the way, let's get into the video. So the first game we have on the list is White Shadows. White Shadows was released on December the 7th in 2021. In short, the game is distinctive because of its monochromic art style and dystopian narrative. You, the player, control Raven Girl, a young protagonist navigating a city built on oppression and violence. But of course, that's not the only thing going on. The environment is a vast network of towers rising from post-catastrophic darkness into the sky. Raven Girl avoids deadly machinery, transverses unstable infrastructure, and of course does her best to avoid any enemies in the game. The game does a great job at doing some puzzle platforming, as you've come to expect with games like Little Nightmares and things, and of course telling a personalised story through it too. Now personally, I haven't covered this on the channel, but I have gave it a go on Steam beforehand, and I did enjoy it, so I would highly recommend it. The next game I would highly recommend is one I've actually did cover on the channel, and it's Shady Part of Me. And this was published by Focus Entertainment, released on December the 10th, 2020. The game is a very unique take on 2D and 3D blended gameplay, allowing you to switch between a little girl and her shadow to solve puzzles and navigate through surreal dreamscapes. The story explores an emotional struggle filled with twists and surprises, all brought to life by the voice of Hannah Murray, who you may know as Gilly from the Game of Thrones, or her role in Skins. Again, Shady Part of Me is one of those games I would highly suggest you play regardless. I think it does an excellent portrayal of stories and of course how they use the shadow mechanic. Again, it isn't the first game to do it, but it was a fantastic playthrough. I highly recommend it. Next on my list, of course, I have Bramble the Mountain King. This was developed by Dim Frost Studio and published by Merge Games, and this was released on the 27th of April 2023. And of course, it draws heavily from Nordic folklore, which again is one of the biggest pluses I think about that game, immersing you in a hauntingly beautiful world filled with mythical creatures and perilous landscapes. You play as Ollie, a young boy on a quest to rescue his sister. Armed with the spark of courage, a magical light source, Ollie navigates through the treacherous environment, solving puzzles and confronting grotesque beings inspired, of course, by the Nordic myths. You'll find creatures like the Nakin, Skrolskra, and Pesta. I feel like I have pronounced those wrong, so please feel free to correct me in the comments. But again, Bramble is fantastic. It gives you that feeling of powerlessness that Little Nightmares does as well, and of course it does itch that itch, and it gives you that Little Nightmares feel. Again, I think the whole presentation of Bramble was absolutely fantastic, especially the darker side of Bramble. I won't of course spoil it for you, but when you play it, and if you do play it, I really highly suggest it. But my favourite part was one of the witches areas, and I've got to admit that was really dark, especially for Bramble. I didn't expect it, but again, highly recommend it. Next on the list is a personal favourite of mine, and not only because the dev himself is a fantastic human being, but because the game was absolutely phenomenal. This is Dark. It's a psychological horror platformer, puzzle platformer, developed by Unfold Games, released on August 15, 2019. You play as Lloyd, trapped in a lucid nightmare, unable to wake up. Lloyd must navigate a surreal dreamscape by blending the laws of physics, walking on walls and ceilings, and solving intricate puzzles. And I must say, combining those two together, it really brings a really interesting experience forward as a player, and when you immerse yourself in the world, it really does start to affect you. And again, I think it's a fantastic game. Lloyd has no means to fight back and must avoid detection by more powerful enemies. A distinctive monochromatic art style and immersive sound design enhance the atmospheric experience. And again, Willard is absolutely fantastic at the sound design. Again, he has a background in, I believe, orchestra and creating cinematic pieces and things like that, and you will get that feeling playing the game. I, for one, have never actually cried at music, but I will say the credits to Dark actually moved me in some manner, so I would highly suggest it. It is fantastic. But again, Dark is a fantastic play and I highly recommend it. It was one of the best indie games I have ever played. And of course, next on the list is A Tale of Paper, and this is of course another puzzle platformer developed by Open House Games and published by Digerati. Released on August 19, 2022, this game tells the story of Line, a magical character made of paper who can use origami to change their shape. Now, a while back I did do a playthrough on A Tale of Paper and it was a really interesting game. I would highly suggest you play it yourself because it's a different feeling than watching someone playing it. Now, of course, without ruining the story too much and adding spoilers left and right, I will say the story was actually very, very intriguing and it was presented in a fabulous way, and it was quite moving towards the end, so prepare for a cry. It's one of those stories that I think you do have to experience, and once you experience it, you won't look back. It's a fantastic little game. The next game on the list is actually a little bit niche, and I say that because we originally covered this when we were doing the series It's Little Nightmares, and this game was on the list because it had a very fantastic Tim Burton style, and it was similar to Little Nightmares, and that is The Frightening Nightmare of Little Eddie, and it's a short, atmospheric 3D puzzle platformer developed by Technoboys, a team of students from Barcelona. Released as a free download on itch, so if you do have a PC, you can play it right now. The game immerses you in a surreal, dreamlike world inspired by the gothic art style of Tim Burton, which is something I love seeing when regarding Little Nightmares content. And you control Eddie, a young boy trapped in a haunting nightmare. To escape, Eddie must navigate a mysterious mansion filled with eerie puzzle and lurking enemies. The gameplay emphasizes on exploration and interaction with dream elements, requiring players to use wit and stealth to overcome challenges. Combat is minimal. Again, I like that because it really gives you that Little Nightmares feel of feeling powerless, and it instead is focused on puzzle solving and atmospheric storytelling. Again, right up a Little Nightmares fans' alley. Now, the next game, again, is a similar story. Oversight is a free student-developed horror puzzle platformer created by a team in Belgium. Released in 2021, the game draws heavy inspiration from Little Nightmares, offering a short yet atmospheric experience. You play as a small child trapped in a surreal, again, decaying mansion in like a dreamscape environment. Your goal is to escape while avoiding a sinister old man who captures his victims by photographing them, trapping their souls in pictures, which is quite a unique approach in all honesty. The game combines stealth, environmental puzzles, and tense chase sequences. If you're looking for a Little Nightmares fix, this is the one. This is absolutely fantastic, and again, not to mention, it's free. And again, it really does do a good job of portraying these kind of like stories, and also giving you that sense of Little Nightmares helplessness. Again, it's a very reoccurring theme going through this list, but again, I highly recommend it, and again, it's free. And of course, the next one on the list, we have Broken Veil. Now, we were introduced to this a while back as a development, and it is still under development, and of course it has massive inspiration from Little Nightmares, as it has stated before in the past. It's developed and published by Sinistrom. Set in a post-Soviet Russian town, the game follows a young boy on a haunting journey to find his missing mother in a faceless crowd. The narrative, of course, unfolds through the child's perspective, immersing you in a surreal and unsettling environment. The game has been, again, a demo for a while now, but even when I first played it on the channel, we didn't know what to expect. But I can say, it definitely gave us that vibe of Little Nightmares. Currently, it doesn't have a set release date as of yet, but the demo is free and on Steam, so if you have access to Steam and a PC, I would highly recommend it, definitely. Next on the list, we have A Juggler's Tale, and this is a cinematic puzzle platformer developed by Kaleidoscube and published by Mix T Vision. Released again on September 29th of 2021, the game is available on most platforms nowadays. A Juggler's Tale is set within a medieval puppet theatre, where you guide Abby, a string puppet and a circus performer, who escapes captivity in search of freedom. Her journey unfolds in a world reminiscent of traditional fairy tales, blending beauty with underlining darkness. A narrator named Jack accompanies you through her adventure, weaving rhymed commentary, and reveals that he is gradually more controlling, but we won't get too much into the story because it is a very interesting take on the whole genre, and again, highly recommend giving it a play. We have done a playthrough on the channel of it, so again, it's got my thumbs up. Now, of course, I couldn't make this list without mentioning Limbo or Inside, but as these games are made by the same studio and everyone who does these lists will always recommend them, I will just literally say I outright recommend Limbo and Inside, because while Little Nightmares defines this kind of gameplay and immersive experience, I think personally it was these two games that kind of started this little snowball. And if you wanted to go down the rabbit hole of games similar to Little Nightmares, I think you had to start with Limbo or Inside. But again, this list was going to give you a little bit more of a different take on a lot of games that are out there at the moment. Now, of course, I wouldn't be doing this list as well without exactly mentioning games that are on my radar for the future. Then these are, of course, Little Nightmares like games still, but they just aren't released yet, and they are coming out within either this year or next year. Now, of course, I have to start with Reanimal. Reanimal will be coming out this year, 2025, as it's been stated in Nintendo's Direct, to most consoles. And, well, if you're a fan of Little Nightmares, then you already know about Reanimal, as it's made from the studio who originally brought us Little Nightmares, Tarsier Studios. Reanimal is an up-and-coming co-op horror adventure game where you play as either the brother or sister, and you are searching for your lost friends in a world that's twisted and contorted from an event which has happened that has fractured the world of Reanimal, and it's fractured it into 3 parts. We, the player, have to explore these islands in search for our friends, finding misery, mystery, and horror along the way. And of course, as you can tell, I am super excited for this one. But there we go. That is my brief little list of games that are like Little Nightmares but you might not be fully familiar with. But of course, if I've missed anything, or if there's any games that you would really shout from the rooftops about, make sure you put them in the comments below. I'd love to see them. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And again, if you're interested in Little Nightmares content, Reanimal, and games like that, again, make sure you hit subscribe, because I cover them on the channel all the time. But with that being said, have a lovely morning, day, or night, wherever you are in the world. Stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next very video.